Am I the asshole for not letting my ex-husband have my deceased daughter's ashes? I'm an Indian woman who came to the United States on a student's visa and met my ex-husband, Dean. My family wasn't happy about the relationship but eventually relented when they realized we were serious about each other. I got pregnant a few months into our marriage and gave birth to our daughter Asha. After I gave birth I developed PPD and as a result our marriage suffered and never really recovered. I was on antidepressants. 2 years after her birth my ex-husband got close to his co-worker, Laura, and they began a 2-year torrid affair. When he eventually got caught, he apologized for hurting my feelings but claimed he was in love with Laura. We divorced and I was left in the US all alone without any emotional or family support. The divorce happened in 2017. We shared 50-50 custody of Asha. In the February 2020, I decided to visit my family in India as my extended family had never met my daughter. The original plan was to stay in India for 3 months, but the plans changed as the world got locked down. One day my daughter complained of uneasiness and stomach pain after she had her usual lunch. I gave her a digestive enzyme and asked her to rest. When I went to check in on her an hour later she was gone. I still don't know what happened that day, but after that moment everything was a blur. My sister informed my ex-husband but because borders were shut he couldn't come to India for the rituals. I cremated my girl according to Hindu rituals and later immersed her ashes in the Ganges, as per our customs. I have refused to take any calls from ex in the past 1 year. I am still dealing with grief. My ex has reached out to me and wants my address to get some of her ashes. I let my sister convey to him that the ashes have been disposed of as per customs. He is now furious and wants me to come back to the United States and give him some of her toys. I have planned on never going back. He already has some of her clothes and toys. I refuse to directly talk to him. That part of my life is over and done. Am I the asshole? To answer a few questions. And #X200B. 1. We were told she suffered a cardiac arrest. She was already dead when she was brought to the nearest hospital. My ex was sent all the details and the hospital documents. And #X200B. 2. He and his family were sent the Zoom link for the funeral. And #X200B. 3. He already has half of her belongings. And #X200B. 4. I didn't keep her ashes, it was disposed of the day after the cremation in the Ganges as per Hindu religious beliefs. And #X200B. 5. He was informed of all the rituals that were going to take place beforehand, he probably didn't understand them. And #X200B. 6. No, I wasn't in contact with him, my family was. And #X200B. 7. The reason he had no problem with me taking Asha to India was because in 2019 he took her to Russia to meet his grandparents. 8. When we left for India, it was early February, we didn't realize COVID was going to be a global pandemic. 9. My ex's heritage is Russian Jewish. He didn't follow his religion when we were married and I raised her Hindu. I realize that people believe I'm the asshole. I understand and accept the judgment. I didn't ask for advice, and no, I'm not going to talk to him ever again. We are done. He can hate me. I don't care. Since he didn't get to be with her in her last days, I'll be sending him a pair of her shoes that she wore during her India visit. My family will contact him regarding the same. Me not talking to him personally is nothing out of the normal. Even when Asha was alive, I kept communication to what the court stipulated. No chit-chat, no weather talk. It was just business. We communicated via email. I have no reason to talk to him now. People can call this being vindicative, I call this my boundary. You are the asshole, he is her father, he was an active part of her life, you are being vindictive. His affair has nothing to do with him being a father and wanting to have part of his daughter. I hope you can live with yourself for being so horrible to a grieving parent. You had no right to unilaterally decide what to do with her remains. Your customs don't override his, you should have given him half of the ashes. I have lived for several years in India and attended a few Hindu funerals. I'm not sure why OP didn't point this out in her post. Maybe she's actually a troll, I don't know, but in India ashes are not preserved at home. They are treated as human remains and have to be scattered immediately after cremation. The funeral is held afterwards, with a picture of the deceased. My late colleague's wife tried to keep a small amount for herself and wasn't allowed. This was in northern India 5 years ago. Naturally, people from a culture where ashes are kept will be outraged. But I doubt Op could have saved the ashes even if she had wanted to. First, I'm sorry for your loss. But you are the asshole. Your ex wasn't with your daughter when she passed. He didn't have a funeral. He wasn't included in the decision concerning the burial. That must be really hard for him to not have anywhere to go and grieve his own child. He was an asshole for cheating, but he doesn't deserve to be excluded the way you have cutted him from your daughter's death. Not the asshole. Gonna stand up for a fellow Indian person. Your daughter was given a perfectly fine last rites by being put into the Ganges River. Significantly better than being split in half so half can sit on some old guy's mantle. Also, what the fuck is up with people suggesting you divide up the ashes? That is the weirdest, most disrespectful suggestion I've heard in a long time. Info. I saw another commenter say that in India ashes aren't handled by the family and they must be scattered immediately, and you likely wouldn't have been allowed to keep any even if you had thought to. How accurate is that summary? Because if you literally couldn't have saved the ashes, that's tragic but doesn't make you an asshole. YTA. I understand that you are in mourning, but then again, so is your ex. Your daughter is also his daughter, and he has every right to have access to her remains and her belongings. Think of it this way. If she had been with him and died while the borders were closed, how would you feel if your ex did you what you have done to him? I realize that you had major differences, and that what he did to you was wrong. Weaponizing your daughter's memory, belongings and remains is just as wrong. This is above Reddit's pay grade. You are the asshole. He is her father and deserved the common courtesy of being involved in these decisions being made. Ship him a few of the toys he's requested and stop using this as a way to punish him for his stupid decision. Am I the asshole for telling my in-laws exactly where my husband was when I was in labor? I gave birth to my son 10 weeks ago. I went through exhausting period while I was nearing my due date. I was experiencing discomfort and wanted my husband by my side when I go into labor, but he'd go out every night to hang out at his friend's place and watch football games. I suggested that he watch games at home just in case, but he was having none of it and said he had to attend game night at his brother and friend's place along with his buddies. He said they had certain, how can I describe it? Rituals when watching a game, and he can't enjoy doing it at home or anywhere else. The night of our son's birth my water broke while my husband was at his buddy's place watching a game. I called him and told him to get home and take me to the hospital. He said he was coming but he didn't. I ended up calling my sister, she lives nearby, and she took me to the hospital. My husband showed up 2 hours later after he kept calling asking if I was still in labor and that he was almost done watching the game. He was able to make it on time for our son's birth, but I was furious with him, mad and disappointed. He apologized profoundly and has been working on regaining my trust and respect for him after what he's done. He's otherwise very supportive and involved in our son's care. Last night I was at my in-laws' house for dinner and we were talking about my son's birth date. My husband suddenly started recalling what happened that night and basically started lying about driving me to the hospital, waiting and feeling stressed out and standing on his feet for so long without food or even water. I was confused. I said no. None of this was true. None of this happened. In fact, he was watching a game when I went into labor and I wanted him to drive me to the hospital but didn't show up till 2 hours later. My mother-in-law, who takes no shit from anybody and whom everyone fears, lost it on him, yelling, asking him if that was true, and he kept quiet. She started berating him left and right, telling him to sit down and shut up when he stood up to argue, then told him to stand up when he was sitting arguing. Everyone was laughing at how she basically treated him as if he was a boy in trouble. She kept saying, "Shame, shame, shame. On you, this is not how I raised my children to treat their wives. Jordan, you are a disgrace and I'm disappointed because of what I heard about you." He literally swallowed every bit of his mother's berating and didn't say anything till we got home, where he went nuts saying I made him look neglectful, a bad husband and father, by telling the family about where he was, and said I shouldn't have said anything, but I argued it wasn't okay for him to lie and play hero in front of his parents. He said I just caused a rift between him and family and asked if I was happy now. AITA? Should I have not said anything? Edit to say that he's done similar things in the past since he's a major enthusiast of football and hockey, but I didn't expect it to get to that. Also, this is not our first baby together, we have a 4-year-old son. Not the asshole. Your husband thought a football game was more important than you being in labor. He looked like a neglectful husband and father because he was being neglectful. If he wants people to think better of him, then he should change his behavior. Yelling at you shows he's not sorry and would rather blame you than accept the consequences of his actions. Not the asshole. That's a weird way to spell ex-husband op. We got home where he went nuts saying I made him look neglectful, a bad husband and father by telling the family about where he was. The truth hurts. Wow. Just wow. Not the asshole. Husband is absolutely 100% an asshole for 1 not driving his wife to the hospital when she went into labor, 2 waiting until the game was over to get to the hospital, 3 lying about it to his family. This would honestly make me question divorce. This is bad. At the very least, marriage counseling would be a must. Not the asshole lying about what he did in public undoes all of the apologizing he did in private. He is not taking full responsibility for his actions. Not the asshole I think I love your mill. Not the asshole. F that s he was not there for you when you needed him and then lies about it. Does he think you're stupid? What a moron. Bless his heart. Lololol. Not the asshole. I'm in disbelief about his behavior. I can't imagine how upset I'd be if I was in your shoes. I think outing him was well warranted, especially once he started blatantly lying. He is a man with 0 honor. And he seems to lack a lot of respect for you. You don't deserve to be disregarded that way. Not the asshole. You said that he's working on regaining your trust, but by lying about his refusal to be there for you, he took a major step back in his attempt to be more trustworthy. Your mill is awesome though. Your husband got exactly what he deserved. Am I the asshole for threatening to kick out my brother and his girlfriend? I, 24M. Own my house and my younger bro, 22M, rents a room off me. He pays $150 Australian a week rent. We split the power bill. I cover the water and internet for various reasons. Everything was chill until his girlfriend, 19F, moved in. She didn't have a job at the time, so I told her she can pay her way by tidying up the house. Since then I have had problems with her not doing her jobs and slowly becoming less respectful of the fact that it's my house. I hadn't really paid attention to it since I'm not home most of the time. I work a lot and try to have a social life on top of that. But over time the house has become a pigsty. The spare room has been filled with boxes of her stuff. Their bathroom constantly smells like mold and the laundry is filed with their dirty cloths. I have spoken to my bro multiple times about it. Every time I do she puts some effort in for a week or 2, then the place goes back to being a mess. She constantly does things that show a lack of courtesy and regard for my space, like going into my room and through my drawers to find batteries. Taking my drinks out of a bar fridge I keep in my room. Moving my PC to set up her laptop in my office. Moving my front veranda furniture so she can park her car in the shade. All of which have been done without asking. But yesterday she pushed things too far. She has arranged without my consent for her cousin, 15F, to spend a long weekend with us. I found out at 9 p.m. the night before the kid was due to arrive, with a text message telling me to move a box out of the spare room that was mine. I candled my plans after work and decided to go home and clean, because I don't like having guests in a messy house. When I got home there was a note on the front door saying, "Hey, kid's name, we won't be home till around 9 p.m. The key is under the mat. If you need anything call one of us, P.S. Sorry about the mess, I checked under the mat and there was her key." She left a note telling anyone who walked past the house where a key to the front door was and how long they would have until anyone was home. This is stupid by itself, but it was only 2 weeks ago that someone tried to break in. As soon as my bro got home I sat him down and spoke to him about how incredibly disrespectful they have been towards me and my household. I told him I am sick of dealing with this and that he has a choice to make. They can either both start paying rent and keeping their parts of the house clean, or they can find somewhere new to live. By the time she got home at 10 I was too tired and drained from the day to deal with the situation in a controlled way, so I went to bed for the night. I'm planning on sitting her down after work today and having the same chat with her, but I've received multiple calls by family telling me not to start a fight over it and that this isn't worth ruining my relationship with them over. So my question is, am I the asshole by telling them they need to either get their shit together or find somewhere else to live? Not at all. I'd honestly kick them both out. Not the asshole, you shouldn't give them the option to stay. She is living in your home rent-free and can't be bothered to do the agreed-upon chores that are supposed to be paying her way. You are only making your brother pay $150 a week, which comes out to $600 a month. That is a pretty good deal, but he seems willing to risk it by letting his girlfriend take advantage of your hospitality. Even if you asked her to move out, she would probably still come by to visit or stay the night with your brother. I could see her unofficially moving back in, especially if you work a lot. I think you would be better to ask both of them to move and get a roommate if you need any help with the mortgage. Not the asshole. Your house, your rules. None of which seem overbearing. Not the asshole. Send them off and let them find their own place to live. This is a good example of no good deed goes unpunished. Not the asshole. She invited someone to spend the weekend at your place without your permission. She goes into your room and digs in your drawers and moves your stuff around. She trashes your home. She left a note on your door giving anyone passing by access to your home. Dude, grow a spine. You've allowed her behavior for too long. Kick her out. Or kick them both out. Next time your family calls to guilt you over this, tell them you're happy they're offering their house to them and you'll send them right over. Not the asshole. You are asking people you're doing a favor for, because despite them paying rent they're living in much better quarters than they would if they were renting anywhere else. To respect your home and your incredibly reasonable wishes regarding your home, and ultimately that's respecting you too. And not only do they defiantly act like assholes themselves in your home, when called out they refuse to own up. Just my personal poot on the matter, but drop the dead, ungrateful weight. Not the asshole. Why isn't this adult paying rent like every other adult? She doesn't get a choice, no free rides. If her rent is cleaning, then that house needs to be tip-top. At least several hours of cleaning is needed every day. But I've received multiple calls by family telling me not to start a fight over it and that this isn't worth ruining my relationship with them over. That's code for don't kick them out cause we don't want to deal with them either. Not the asshole. They are taking advantage of you and disrespecting you and your home. I think you know what you need to do and it won't be pretty. Am I the asshole for blowing up at my boyfriend over his comedy show? Made this account to post this and get some advice. My 29F boyfriend, 28M, have been together for 2 years, living together one. And #X200B. We come from different economic backgrounds. His family was right on the poverty line and he lived on government assistance growing up. My family always had enough money for a nice big trip each year and a few smaller ones. I generally got my whole Christmas list. I never asked for anything insane, but if I wanted a new game system then I had a good chance of getting it at Christmas or a birthday. All in all, I never had to really worry about money. And #X200B. Anyway, my boyfriend has a lot of hobbies and one is stand-up comedy. He goes to clubs and signs up to perform. I don't go often. I get terrible second-hand embarrassment and generally don't like clubs all that much. I still support him doing this. Recently he started going to this new club. One time I asked if he wanted me to come to his performance and he replied, "No, this comedy doesn't suit your tastes." I thought it an odd thing to say and felt a little miffed by it, but he's right. And #X200B. Then I noticing him going more and more often. I found out he had basically become a regular and had a usual time slot. I didn't tell him but I went. Sat in the back and waited. And #X200B. Turns out I was the show. He immediately went into girlfriend jokes. Some tame, but all of them with me as the punchline. He joked about my friends, my quirks, and even our love life. They were all jabs at our differences and miscommunication, some that I didn't even know about. The worst was he kept comparing our childhoods. Mentioning how privileged I was and how I said stupid stuff all the time about money and how I spent on ridiculous things. The audience loved it and I had to sit there for 30 minutes listening to my boyfriend tell everyone how annoying he found me. And #X200B. I was furious and left. I waited for him at home and when he arrived I jumped down his throat. Screaming and yelling about how rude and horrible he was. I remember crying too about how he should have told me if he had issues and that I hated how he made a mockery of me. It took him a while to fully understand, but when he realized I was at the show he got mad too. He told me it was all for comedy and that couples are supposed to laugh at each other. I demanded to know if he truly thought I was this ignorant rich girl and he responded that I don't understand hardship and his comedy helps him heal from that. I told him that if he thinks we are so different then why stay together? And #X200B. I was so mad I refused to listen to his side further and left for my parents. I've been avoiding his calls for 2 days now and still feel anger, but also regret my screaming match. So my question is, am I the asshole for getting so upset? I know I can't fully appreciate someone's childhood struggle when I had none, but I don't know if that gives them the right to use me as an emotional punching bag for their self-healing. To review. He's regularly shitting all over you and your relationship for cheap laughs. He discourages you from attending his shows so you won't find out. He gaslighted you by saying couples should laugh at each other, which isn't what happened here, and acted like you are overreacting. Not the asshole, and you guys need a serious, calm talk. Not only does your boyfriend show zero respect for you, he has incredibly poor judgment. Not the asshole. If he's so wounded by all of this, why is he even with you? He's using you, keeping you around for companionship and sex, and mining your life to use for his show. I'd be incredibly offended and hurt, too. If he finds you so contemptible that he gets to mock you behind your back in public, he should have had the decency to tell you and break up with you. His behavior is gross. I'm so sorry. I hope you're able to find healing from this awful behavior and meet someone worthy of you. Not the asshole. He knew how you would feel about it. He knew how disrespectful it looked. It's sad that he spent his childhood in or near poverty, but that isn't your fault. He could have at least talked to you about this. What would have happened if your friends had gone and seen it? The likelihood of this being kept from you forever was always going to be slim. NTA. Even though it's a comedy show, he's using you as a punching bag. He has serious issues when all he's doing is attacking you as part of his routine. If I was going out with someone who did this to me, I'd drop the person. I've been through enough toxicity in my life. I would not support this person going forward. If he had no issue with you knowing he's doing this, why did he keep pressuring you into not appearing? This isn't self-healing. I'd consider this abuse. Look, I had a terrible childhood, my husband the polar opposite. I have never used this against him. He obviously can't relate to most things I went through, but I don't blame him for it, nor do I have any contempt because he has a happier vision of the world than I do. Your boyfriend knew exactly what he was doing by hiding his content from you. 1 or 2 jokes about your relationship would have been fine. Most comedians do that. But using you as a punchline for the whole routine is extremely insulting. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. It would be different if he had spoken to you first and you both had a conversation about including your personal lives in his stand-up. But trying to hide it from you makes it seem like he knew it was wrong. I know there are comedians who draw from their relationships and their shows are fine with it, but I really think it's something that needs to be agreed upon by both parties. Not the asshole. If his entire set is just ripping on you and he didn't ask you if that's okay first, most people would see that as a violation. Even if this is his way of dealing with differences between you, airing it out in public without your okay or at the very least a forewarning is a pretty dick move. Not the asshole. Pretty sure he wouldn't like it if you went Mrs. Maisel on his ass and used his butt for comedy. He would probably freak out about being disrespected, which is what he was doing to you.